This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Is Joe Schad ready to go, ready to talk a little Miami Dolphins football as they get ready for the Indianapolis Colts. Joe, I'm sure you saw the Schefter report. It looks like Tua will end up missing just the 3 games. He's got him coming back against the Jags in 2 weeks. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's not surprising, Big O, considering when I asked Brian Flores why the team decided to put Tua on injured reserve, his response was that's how long it's going to take. So, 3 weeks is what the Dolphins anticipated. And, thankfully they have a capable backup in Jacoby Brissett. It'll be very interesting to see how he does against his former team today. But Tua needs as many reps as possible, and the Dolphins need to see Tua take as many reps as possible so they can determine if, in fact, he is their franchise quarterback of the future that they thought they drafted.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. There's no doubt about that. But it's good to know that Tua will be back for that Jags game. And then on the flip side, the Michael Dieter one, when you guys were talking to Flo, man, his body language, the way he kind of responded to it, this thing looks like, I know they got him on the IR and it's at least 3 weeks, but man, he kind of gave me the response like this is going to be a lot longer, and that he was like really disappointed about this injury.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long Dieter is going to be out. The Dolphins, again, have another capable backup in Greg Mans. I don't think there's going to be a huge drop off in talent between Dieter and Mans. The only thing is Dieter has obviously been working with Jacoby Brissett and Tua Tagovailoa and Robert Hunt to his right and Jesse Davis to his left. So in terms of communication, that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Thankfully, it's not as though Mance was just signed. Remember a couple of years ago, the Dolphins would insert players into the lineup like 3-4 days after they signed. At least this guy Mance has been around. And so I don't think I do not anticipate that being a huge issue. For me, that's not the biggest concern for the Dolphins offensive line. It continues to be the need for improvement from left tackle Austin Jackson.
Okay. Are you in La Palma over there in the island where they're having a lot of earthquakes? I'm just wondering because it's shaking a lot there. I'm just having fun. All right. Raekwon Davis. Does it look like next week is his return? What are you hearing?
I have not checked on Raekwon Davis. I think that when he was injured, there was a thought that he would have a chance to return after missing just 3 games. Certainly my observations of him in terms of walking around without the aid of crutches, it does not appear to be, a season-ending type of injury. It's obviously not. So we'll have to see. But it'll help. It'll help. The Dolphins defensive front has been okay. I really think it's the linebackers who need to step up their game against the run.
Yes, I'm with you there. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's get back to the quarterback position. Let's talk a little bit about Brissett. Last couple weeks, he had the ugly interception on the right sideline, really late ball, and then last week had the brain fart of throwing it in, the ball in his own end zone for the safety. I'm worried a little bit about the brain farts. Today is a very emotional game for him. Joe, you and I have been around this shit for a long time. We've covered players on all different kinds of sports. This means something to every player that gets to play against his former team. I worry about emotions getting the best of him, and watching 2 of those brain farts the last couple of weeks, that concerns me. That is the one area that I am concerned about with Jacoby going into this game. Is that a concern for you?
It's actually not. I think Brissett is a very mature, level-headed, cold-blooded kind of guy. I think he's got the experience of 50-plus appearances in the NFL. I really don't think he's a guy who cares that much about defeating his former team. I think for him, it's more about ego and pride and wanting to show the world that he is a capable NFL quarterback. He believes he's a guy who can and should be starting in the NFL. You might dispute that, but he believes it.
Okay.
And he's also not a guy who is ultra aggressive. It will be interesting, though, because Brissett throughout his career has been criticized as a guy who's too conservative.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins co-offensive coordinators and play caller, the three-headed monster, they have all been criticized for being a bit too conservative. So does Jacoby take a couple of shots that maybe he shouldn't? But my thought is that's okay. If you're forcing it to a Devontae Parker, a Will Fuller, a Jalen Waddle, a Mike Gesicki, I'm fine with it. As long as the guy has at least a 50-50 shot at the ball, if he throws a couple of picks, I'm not going to come away saying, oh, well, he's trying to prove it to the Colts. I think he was just trying to maybe prove to the world that he can force the ball a little bit more downfield.
Okay. And you have a very popular segment about the tape not lying, and you go through it every week. When you went through it this week, one running back had 5 yards, another one had 4 yards. So I do kind of laugh at people that are, bitching about the two offensive coordinator combination. Well, half of it did well because the running game did well this past week. And Jacoby actually had some time a couple times to throw the ball. Did it look like to you on the tape that they played their best game so far? Not where you need them to be. We all know the offensive line is not where they need to be. But did you see improvement in week 3?
There was some improvement. I mean, the starting point was pretty low considering how bad they were against Buffalo. But I think Robert Hunt is very solid. I think Liam Eichenberg certainly has potential. You might be totally settled on the right side of the offensive line. It's really the left side of the offensive line that you wonder about. And does Solomon Kinley at some point get another chance? I hope so. Does Austin Jackson steadily improve? I hope so. And I thought it was interesting that Mike Pouncey, who's not a tackle, but certainly a Dolphins great in terms of offensive line play, has been out at camp sort of helping out, observing, consulting. It's interesting because the one thing that the first-year offensive line coach, Lem Jean-Pierre, stressed is how he wanted them to be aggressive, assertive, nasty, maulers. And you haven't seen that. Now, you did see that from Austin Jackson on a couple of run plays last week.
Yeah.
So I think if he can get past the hesitation, he's so afraid of committing false start penalties, which has been a problem for him, that sometimes he hesitates at the snap and he's at a disadvantage against speed rushers. Kwity Paye, the first-rounder defensive end for the Colts, is out today. And the Colts are without a lot of good players, at least 5 starters and other key contributors. So this is really an opportunity. I know you're going to ask me what I think is going to happen. I would be surprised if the Dolphins didn't win today. I would be disappointed if the Dolphins didn't win today. I think this is, close to a must-win situation. I think this is a game they should win. I think this is a game they will win. I think against Carson Wentz, this is a game where everything gets cured. Their third down woes, their sacks, their turnovers, their tackling, their forced fumbles, everything goes right for the Dolphins in this game, in my opinion. I think there's absolutely no doubt in my mind Miami wins today.
Oh yeah, I'm picking Miami too today, but I take it to another level than you. This is a must-win. Period. This one and in 2 weeks against the Jags. Why, Joe? At the end of the year, if you're not in the playoffs, you're going to look back at these games. You're going to go, "Oh, why aren't we in the playoffs?" Oh, that's right. We lost to the Colts in week 4, and we lost to the Jags in week 6. Yeah, that's why we're not in the playoffs. The 2 winnable games we lost. And those, to me, these 2 games are 2 games. You have to be 3-3 with 11 games left. I think if you're 3-3, you've kind of weathered the storm, because you kind of expect them to lose next week. But if you win this week and you beat Tampa, you beat Jags and you lose to Tampa, you're 3-3 with 11 games left. You're in a really good spot to still fight for that playoff spot. And hopefully you're also improving over the next couple of weeks. So for me, these next 2 of the next 3 games, they have to be victories, dude. They have to.
The sense that
if you want to go to the playoffs,
the sense that I got from the players this week is that They're a little bit embarrassed at what has happened in the last few games here, that they are focused, that they are on edge, that they are well prepared, that they have practiced hard throughout the week. I fully expect the Dolphins to play very, very well today.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, man. I'm hoping that they're able to do that. One more thing. Are you when you look at Austin Jackson? Okay, did you saw improvement in it? But physically, when I see that guy come to the podium and his arms are bigger than my legs, I mean, those arms are enormous, bro. I wonder how I wonder how he struggles physically at times because you look at him and he's well put together. So it's not like he lacks it physically and he's too short or unathletic or anything like that. He really doesn't have he doesn't lack any of the physical tools that you would figure he would need to succeed at this level.
No, it's technique, it's footwork, it's hand placement, it's keeping the feet moving. It's understanding leverage, understanding what an opposing player is trying to do to you. Is he trying to go inside or outside? What's the down and distance situation? What's the likely play call? There's all these things. Austin Jackson was considered a raw prospect, especially for a guy who was the 18th pick overall. He's not a guy who dominated in college like a Penei Sewell at Oregon, who has continued to dominate with the Detroit Lions. He was a guy who's going to take a little bit of time, maybe not as much time as a Noah Igbenogany, who's also a raw developmental prospect. But Jackson needs to do his developing on the field, and he needs to be better this week than he was last week. He was slightly better last week than the week before, so he needs to keep things moving in the right direction. Not to make excuses for him, but I do think that COVID had a little negative impact on him. So every week we get removed from his COVID, that should help him. That should help him.
All right, we'll wrap it up with this. What did you read into the Deshaun Watson talk this week? Because if there's one guy that I never flinch when he says something, it's Jake Laser. So when Jake Laser came out and said, hey, Houston's softening his stance, but then Josina Anderson, who does an excellent job in her own right, she kind of thoroughly went through, what's going on in his cases, civil and criminal investigations. It still doesn't sound to me like any of this stuff is going to be settled by November 2nd anyway. I still don't believe the league will allow any kind of a trade while none of that has been settled. They just have stayed back and allowed Houston to do what they're doing because it doesn't force their hand because he's not playing, he's not getting traded, so they don't have to really act right now. So I'm wondering, how do you read through all of this with the whole, obviously, Tua situation here? Miami considered the front runner, and then all the reports coming out from two different sources.
I don't know that the NFL would prohibit a Deshaun Watson trade. I think any team trying to acquire him, including the Dolphins, would need to know if that player is going to go on the commissioner's exempt list right away. And even if he were to be placed on the commissioner's exempt list, like that Dodgers pitcher who was accused of a bunch of things. Trevor Bauer or whatever.
Bauer, yeah.
If he was, that would not be all that big a deal for the Dolphins. That would be a long-term play for the Dolphins. So do I think the Dolphins would have interest in Deshaun Watson at the right price? Absolutely. Do I think that Tua Tagovailoa's injury concerns and whether or not he's proven already that he's likely to live up to his draft status is a concern? Yes, absolutely. I think all these things are at play. I do caution you with the idea that it's my opinion that a lot of the Deshaun information is coming from Deshaun's camp, and Deshaun wants to be in Miami. Just keep that in mind.
All right, there you go. And you got the Dolphins winning today, correct?
I picked them to win by 3 to 7 points, but I just in general pick them to win. Pick them to win.
All right, let's do it. Let's hope they can win and get to 2-2. Joe, appreciate you as always, my friend. Enjoy the game. Thank you for taking some time.
Glad I was able to get things settled down here. Hopefully the Dolphins O-line will.
You got it, baby. You always are settled in. You are the man. Thank you, Joe. Looking sharp. There you go. Looks great, doesn't he? There he goes. He is money. That is Joe Schad with our American Dream Lending Miami Dolphins.
is the Big O Show.